Check, check. Very important is the fact that we are talking about something that we've done all along. Yeah? And we're talking about masks. And you're probably going to wonder why is ma'am saying that we've done masking all along. Yeah? Try and remember the first birthday party. Yeah? And apart from the cake and the wafers that you really longed for, there were other things that we longed for, right? One of them was the mask. The other one was that clown hat which we all got, which had imprinted on it, happy birthday, alright? So, can you all see the PPT? If you can't, then you can just come ahead a little bit. Also, I want to ask you, how many of you are from the third year? Oh, great. Okay. So, I decided to, and I was just thinking of what to call my presentation, and I decided to call it Masks Unmasked. Of course, it is a metaphorical terminology because I'm going to try and unmask before you certain masks. Okay? And therefore, I move ahead with this quote. Today, I remove the mask that hides me from who I am. I find my voice sending a clear message to the universe about what's important to me. In return, I experience more good in my life. And it's very, very important for us to understand what is it that we are and what is it that we wish to be. What is it that we hide behind our masks? And what is it that we expose when we unmask ourselves? Very important is then the fact that we are going to look at how this entire workshop is going to move. Of course, we are going to honor Dionysus. We are going to look at masks, and we are going to look at how we are going to unmask human beings. We are going to look at masked actors in action, and we are also going to look at how masks are made. Even before we move on, what I want to say is that while we are honoring the Greek god Dionysus, I also want to honor the man who wrote the world's oldest treatise of performing arts, that is Bharatamuni and Natya Shastra. Okay? Simply because I think more than anybody else, that is one man whom I have respected ever since I did my master's in English literature. Because we had the option of taking up aesthetics, and we were taught by Dr. Milind Malshe, about Indian dramaturgy. And there is, in Indian dramaturgy, 4 concepts of Abhinaya. As you all know, Abhinaya is all about acting. Alright? Now, what are these 4 concepts of Abhinaya, or the 4 types of Abhinaya? Anybody? Google Baba ki jai ho. Yeah. So, there is Angika Abhinaya. Anga, the physical self. Okay? So, when we are talking of Angika Abhinaya, or when Bharata Muni spoke about Angika Abhinaya, he spoke about how people walk. Am I walking like this? Am I walking like this? Or am I walking like this? That is Angika. That is the physical self. Then comes Vachika. Vachan, speech or dialogue or song. Yeah? So Sangeet, Nritya played a very important role It's not the ahar, food, but this is the aharya, A-H-A-R-Y-A. Aharya is the costume and the makeup. Yeah? So imagine, several centuries ago, you had an Indian dramaturgist who was talking about costume and makeup. And he was also talking about masks. He was also talking about painted faces. Alright? And to go with the masks and the painted faces, he was talking about the costume and the properties that theatre would be using. Alright? And the final part of abhinaya or acting is what is called as the, anyone? So, sattvika. Yeah? So, now sattvika abhinaya is purity. You know, we call it sattvika ahar. When you go for a detoxification, you go in for sattvika ahar. Now, what does sattvika have to do then with acting? We've so frequently heard actors saying that I got so much into the character of the role, or I got so much into the character that I was playing that it caused me a lot of agony and pain. Yeah? And Greek theatre talks about, what does Greek theatre say? You have the purging of emotions. Yeah, catharsis. So essentially, while we are talking about Greek theatre, while we are honoring Dionysus, I also want to honor the Indian theatrical tradition because there's so much of commonality that you see between India, Greece, Japan, China, and of course Italy. Yeah? And one of those things which is very common in all these theatrical traditions is the use of facial makeup, masks, costumes, and of course the beauty of translating what is in real life and presenting it on stage. Okay? And of course, since you are all students of literature, the plot, the character, the denouement, all of it plays such an important role when we are looking at theatrical traditions. Alright? Very important is the fact that while we are talking about Dionysus, we're looking at certain enduring mysteries and we're looking at paradoxes of life. Enduring mysteries because this is a Greek god, and I'm not even saying this was a Greek god. If we are honoring him so many centuries, I think 2,523 years later, when we are still honoring him and we are calling it Neo, and we are talking about how he still impacts us today. I will not use it in the past tense, I will say is. And if he is the god of intoxication, the god of grapes and wine, the god of orchards, the god of fertility, festivity, the god of theatre, then it's very important to understand one thing, that wine creates several emotions. Yeah? Wine or intoxication makes us feel liberated. You know, we've heard so many people saying, हम दारू क्यों पीते हैं? हमको अपनी दुख भूलना है इसलिए. Right? That feeling of liberation. I would say घंटा liberation. Because the next day, you are not liberated. You get up with a hangover and you get up with headache. Okay? But we still say there is liberation, there is ecstasy. That drunkard who is lying in the gutter and singing aloud, जब प्यार किया तो डरना क्या? Liberation, ecstasy. Yeah? And there is also that loss of control and a sense of different identification. And I think that's what theatre does to all of us. Yeah? And I think the teachers here will agree with me. There couldn't be a better actor than a teacher. Held in spring, mostly in March. And I think in Europe, March is a very beautiful time of the year because they have just, slumbered out of a very thick winter, a very thick covering of snow. And then you have these beautiful birds, these beautiful flowers, beautiful butterflies which have also gotten out of the slumber. And they have come alive. And since the 6th century BC, we've been celebrating this great personality, this great god. And we've been celebrating theatre, which we are celebrating even today. And therefore, very important is the 550 BC. This is the time when we saw Greek theatre flourishing. This is the time when we saw comedy. This is also the time when we saw that theatre personalities were, or rather actors were making a mockery of the spectators. They were making a mockery of all the public administrators and public figures. They even had the gumption to laugh at people who were in the higher authority. And like you have the stand-up comedians today who are laughing at all and sundry, and still we laugh along with them, and they also laugh at us, They tell you, or in the set itself they tell you, okay, how many of you are married? Make a noise. Yeah, how many of you married? Make a noise. Only one? Yeah, but yes, when you watch any of your stand-up comedians, I'm talking about the ones who are really famous. You have your Kenny Sebastian, and you have your what's her name? Give me names, man. Veerdas, yeah. Veerdas got into trouble incidentally because he mocked all the politicians of the country. But yes, that's what Greek comedy did as well. They mocked people, they laughed at people, and it was so easy for them to do all of this wearing a mask. Why? Because here are grotesque characters, wearing masks and saying random things, abusing people, making people laugh at themselves, at others, but you don't know who's the person behind the character. Yeah? So it makes things so much easier. And then what you found is they would wear these grotesque masks. Sorry about the language, but then yeah, that's how it is. They would wear padded buttocks. And not only that, they also had these huge phallus. You know what phallus are, I don't have to explain to you. But I'm sure you all know that when you hit that phallus, that's where it hurts the most. Yeah? So they would do all kinds of things on stage. Yeah? And get away with it. More important, people would come to watch you. 2,500 people sitting there in the audience, cheering and hooting and laughing and joking with you. And you were mocking at the person who was administering. You were mocking the public who was sitting there. But the public didn't like it because these men were all masked. Okay? So, from there, we're moving in. And I'm not really looking at too much of details because I want you to go home by 4:15 if possible. So, I know you've had a long day. We're not going to unmask human beings. Okay? Because, trust me, all of us are wearing masks. Each one of us. And you must have told your other friend 100 times. हाँ सामने तो दिखता बेस्ट फ्रेंड कैसा पीछे छुरी मारा देखने बोला था नोट्स दे दे तो क्या बोल रहा है आई लॉस्ट माय नोटबुक What are we doing? We are trying to expose the mask that my friend, I'm your best friend. These days I find, that everybody who meets, मतलब आज अभी 4 बजे मिले हैं, कल सुबह 8:30 बजे क्लास में मिलेंगे, भाई कल तो मिले थे, कितना प्यार दिखाओगे? पर हमको तो भाई मास्क पहनने को बड़ा अच्छा लगता है, क्योंकि हमको दिखाना है ना लोगों को कि हम कितने अच्छे हैं, हम कितना प्यार करते हैं. No bro, let them say what they want. You are my best friend. And then you say BFF. I don't know whether that FF is what, friend, forever or what. मतलब वो double tense. I feel like someone's shooting me in the brain. Okay, but then we need to unmask all these human beings, and I think that's one of the reasons why we should learn theatre. Because theatre is that one place which brings us face to face with reality. We laugh, we cry, we swear at people, we swear on people, we swear at ourselves and say, what fools we have been. Just as it is so important to learn literature, unfortunately there are universities which are removing literature and saying, mat padho. But I believe the more you read, the more you understand. And therefore, when you read theatre, when you watch theatre, when you read poetry, and when you recite poetry, that's where you understand real characters. And you will actually find a real Othello amongst you. You'll actually find a real Hamlet amongst you. You'll actually find a Lady Macbeth amongst you. You'll find a Lear, and you'll find his daughter. And trust me, when you take a solo vacation, how many of you have been on a solo vacation? You're too young to take a solo vacation. But once you finish your third year and you start earning, try going for a solo vacation, a safe one, huh? But try going for a solo vacation, because that's when you will understand that when Wordsworth said, oft when on my couch I lie, vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye. We never understand unless we go out on a solo vacation. What is that pensive mood? Try being alone. Try being alone in a place that does not give you network. Without network, try being alone. That's when you'll understand pensive mood, and that's when you'll understand what is the inward eye. And believe me, that inward eye is so beautiful, because you learn to discover yourself. And that's what theatre taught us. Okay? And we're going to move ahead, because why on earth are we talking about masks? Yeah? And I'm going to bring you back to that birthday party. How many of us went to a birthday party and got a mask? Yeah? You wore the mask? No? Why? You wore the mask? Yeah, tell me, how did you feel when you wore the mask? Yeah. हाँ तो छोटी थी, मतलब उतना भी छोटी नहीं थी. याद है ना कौन सा मास्क पहना था? तो बोलो ना कैसा लगा? कार्टून मास्क था. Wow. Which cartoon was it? Try, remember. Doraemon.
You realize as a child you can do all the mischief in the world and not get noticed.
You get away with whatever you want to do. Okay? Just get away with whatever you want to do. And that's the beauty of wearing a mask. Yeah? And that's why you're given a mask, man. बर्थडे पार्टी में क्यों हमको मास्क दिया जाता है कि उसको पहन लो एंड जंप अराउंड. मतलब अगर ग्लास भी टूटा तो टूटने दो. आंटी को पता नहीं चलेगा कि इसमें से किसने, कौन से डोरेमोन ने ग्लास फोड़ा है ना. So that's one of the things. Wearing a mask. How do you feel? Do you think the mask would give you the power that you would otherwise not have? Definitely. Right now, I don't have the power to say a lot of things. Yeah? Because I'm here as Dr. Shamali Gupta. You know, head department of some place. So there is that responsibility. But just imagine if I had worn jeans, t-shirt, if I had worn a mask and come here, so I would not have censored what I said. Matlab, I just shook my mouth. You of course understood, you're a smart people. But the point remains that suppose I had walked in here wearing jeans, t-shirt and a mask, it would empower me to say a lot of things to you which otherwise my responsibility, my position, my status in society does not empower me. True? Yeah? Next. Now we're going to pretend play, and I need 3 people to just quickly walk up here. And we're going to just try and pretend. Now, okay, so we're going to pretend play. They've been given 3 masks, alright? And they've also been given 3 dialogues to speak, okay? These dialogues you have heard, but see what happens when you pretend play. And I would like you to do this. This is a very simple thing. I just went to Google search. I looked for 3 masks to print out, okay? And now they're going to hold the mask in front of their faces and speak out 3 dialogues. छोटे वाले dialogues हैं जो आप सबको पता है, okay? We had done one of this thing, you know, we'd gone to ND studio और इसमें से एक dialogue जो है वो ND studio में ही कहा गया था, okay? So what we did, I led the team. Mad things we do, but we actually did it, okay? And then I had dressed up one boy as a girl. ओके तो उसको दुपट्टा वगैरह डाल के टिक्का वगैरह लगा के एंड वी सेड तुझे लास्ट लाइन बोलना है. मैम नो मैम प्लीज डोंट डू दिस टू मी. आई सेड नहीं करना है बिकॉज वी आर गोइंग टू डू दिस रील एंड इट्स गोइंग टू गो अप ऑन इंस्टाग्राम एंड ट्रस्ट मी it got the maximum hits. Okay, so we're going to start. I'm just going to hold the mic before them because obviously these so earlier on when masks were made, they had these little holes that were there in front of the eyes because obviously they had to move up and down the stage, otherwise they'd stumble and fall. Nostrils so that they could breathe, and mouth. Most of the times these mouths were done like this, okay? Which I'm sure all of you know by now. So the idea was that in those days they did not have the microphone, but they had what was called as a vocoder. Heard of the Bhoppu? Yeah? Have you seen the gramophone? His master's voice? Alright. So what they did was the mask was constructed in such a way that this is what the shape would be. So it was elongated, extended, and then the lips were made. So it actually acted as a device by which the voice would be amplified. So you didn't have to hold a mic, you didn't need a lapel mic, you didn't need mics which were hanging from the grid above. Alright? So it was very, very simple. Masks were helping you in amplifying your voice. But of course, these masks are not created that way. I did not have enough time to create masks. So we are going to use the microphone, and I'm going to just hold the mic so that we can hear her voice.
कितने आदमी थे?
Okay. Now whose dialogue was this? Movie buffs here? Gabbar, kitne aadmi the? You remember the huge Gabbar now? Whose face is this? Doesn't look like Gabbar at all. Yeah? The entire character of the mask gives a very different idea to you. It could just be a character out of Doraemon, could just be a character out of Pokemon, could just be a character out of Marvel. Yeah? And she's going to leave with the mask.
एक चुटकी सिंदूर की कीमत तुम क्या जानते हो रमेश बाबू?
Yeah. Deepika Padukone is such a cute monkey, man. But do you realize that it gives a very different character to the personality? And it just doesn't matter who's mouthing the dialogue. A cute little monkey could actually say, "Ek chutki sindoor ki कीमत तुम क्या जानो रमेश बाबू," and it could be addressed to that magarmach, the crocodile, theatre. That's what theatre and that's what masks do to us, guys.
पिक्चर अभी बाकी है मेरे दोस्त।
शाहरुख, डायलॉग शाहरुख का है, पर मास्क जो है ना वो तो कोई नो, आई थिंक दिस इज an Italian mask that is normally used by Italian theatre. Okay, so thanks to all three of you for being such lovely sports and taking up this challenge. But it's very important for us to understand this one thing, that this is why we are talking about masks, because it does wonders to what we want to do and what we want to play. So when you're wearing a mask and you've got it on, you feel you're kind of invincible. I think they would have felt even better, if they were wearing the masks and coming in, because then nobody would even dream that they are the ones who are wearing the masks. So normally when you are up on stage and you've got your masks on, it gives you a sense of strength, a sense of power. Next, it's almost like nobody can see you and you can do what you want without thinking about the consequences. What's going to happen next? If they had worn the masks here, then they wouldn't even have felt shy. They would have actually said the whole dialogue and got away with it. Or they could have said a whole lot of other things too, made comments, passed different kinds of opinions. Yeah? And opinion making was a very important part of Greek society. I'm sure you know that, right? We're going to move on, and masks have been used on stage for storytelling for a very long time. And moreover, I want you to understand one thing, that in ancient times, whether in India, especially in India, women were not allowed to act a role. Yeah. So there were men who would wear masks of women and play the role. Therefore you have a man who would wear a sari, behave all effeminate and call himself Sita, or call himself Radhike or Shakuntala, or whatever the case may be. Similarly, even in Greek theatre, there were younger people, younger boys who would take on roles of girls, alright? And there weren't too many actors as well, so frequently they had to keep changing their characters, they had to keep changing their roles. So the mask was, you wore a mask, you played one role, took off a mask and played another role, alright? Again, very important is that masks have helped audiences recognize certain archetypal, typical characters of various troops. So there were people who were farmers. There were people who were playing roles of the chorus. There were people who were playing the roles of warriors. Okay, there were people who was playing the role of a soothsayer. There were people who were playing the role of courtiers. So, or even dragons, witches, and so on and so forth. So, masks would help the people identify these characters, and they were also used, and they are still being used as training tools. Okay, so when you have to train youngsters, you make them wear masks. So what happens is that there is a unidimensional mask which people wear, which covers you. Naturally, it has to make you use your body. If you want to show certain aspects, if you want to hone the Angika Abhinay, you have to mask your face so that your facial expressions are not seen. Alright? So this is something which has been frequently used by directors for training purposes. Now, while we are talking of unmasking, all of you know that theatre incorporates the plot, the music, the characters, the dialogues, and a mask always helps and aids in showing each of these things, So you have an angry person, you have a feminine person, you have a person who is romantic, you have a person who is probably very stern, you have a person who is grotesque. Okay, so all these characters, all the plots that you have, the subplots that you have, again, Greek theatre, Indian theatre, all of these, music plays a heavy role in both of them. So when you have the chorus singing, they would all be wearing a similar kind of a mask. Alright? Now we're going to move into, we have countries and their masks, and very important is the fact that we have Greece, Italy, India, Japan, which has majorly used masks. Okay, now in Greece, of course, I will show you a video very shortly. Italy, you have the Commedia dell'arte, yeah, and in that, I'm sure you've learned that even in literature, especially in the history of literature. So when you're looking at Commedia dell'arte, you will find that there are uses of masks which are done specifically when you have to mock characters or when you have to show these grotesque, stupid, silly characters. Alright? In India, you have the entire Chau dance. Yeah? Now, of course, it's a dance form, but very, very importantly, it's a narrative style of dance form. So it's a theatrical. So what they do is they have these elaborate 12 kilo ka vajan ke masks पहन लेते हैं लोग. Okay? Sometimes they are Ganpati, sometimes they are Krishna, sometimes they are Durga, alright? And all of these are these huge ornate masks that they wear. They have very, very stylized dance steps, okay? And their Angika is very stylized. Similar down south. How many of you are South Indians here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so down south in Kerala, you have this stylized theatrical dance form which is called the Kudiyattam. Yeah. Now, Kudiyattam does a lot of face makeup. They take nearly 3 to 3.5 hours to get their entire makeup done. Okay, almost looks like a mask, but no, it's makeup. And very, very ornate makeup. They do up the eyes and the eyebrows, and they apply these small seed in the corner of their eyes to make it red. And then in the middle of the evening, when the sun comes down, it's such a beautiful, just imagine, Kerala, lots of greenery, palm leaves, palm trees, and open air, and you have this huge Attavilakka, which is a huge oil lamp in the center. Okay? And standing in the center is your actor. Alright? All made up. Playing the role of maybe Ravan, playing the role of maybe Ram, maybe Sita. And the fact remains that they say their own dialogues, they sing their own songs, they do their own actions, and more importantly, it's also stylized. It's also beautifully narrative, So, incidentally also, I need to mention here that Kudiyattam has been accorded the heritage status by UNESCO. Okay, so they call it the heritage status of intangible art forms. Okay, and there are very few people who continue to do Kudiyattam, but then it's beautiful. Similarly, Chau. If you see, there are 3 varieties of Chau, one in Odisha, one in Bihar, and the other in Bengal, very close to the Bihar borders. 3 very different types of Chau, but again, all 3 of them using masks, heavily using masks to portray characters. Alright? In Japan, you have the theatre which is called No. N-O-H. Okay, and No also elaborately uses masks, specifically when they have to show people in power and when they have to show dragons, witches, and funny people. Yeah. So this is something which is very, very common, and very importantly, a look is worth 1,000 words. Now, this is a look which we are going to try and recreate in a short while. Most often this is what is called as mime theatre. Okay. Now, 2 things that I want to mention. Masks can be a form of art, especially in India. We love to have masks. I'm sure many of us have a Kathakali mask, or we have a Chau mask. Now, the Ganpati you see here is a Chau mask. Okay, so the Chau artists normally wear these kind of masks and do their performances. So it can be as an art, it can also be as an icon. The other one is from the Commedia dell'arte style of grotesque mask. Okay, so mask can also be a signal. So when you use this kind of a mask, can you even say whether this is human? Is it human? The second mask? What do you feel? Does it signal any kind of human being? I mean, when I saw this mask for the first time, it reminded me of this fable that we had all learned as small children, where there is a small boy and he keeps telling lies, and he's called Pinocchio, and every time that he tells a lie, his nose keeps on growing. So, somewhere when I saw this mask, I said, "Arey, ye Pinocchio hai." झूठा है ना? So none of us have that kind of lines on our forehead, you know, unless it's an old person, right? But this particular mask, if you look at it, it's got these frowns on the forehead. It's got a long nose, it's somewhat like Pinocchio. So it gives us a signal of the kind of character that must be performing. Yeah. So sometimes masks can be an art, sometimes it can be an icon. So here the mask of Ganpati is an icon of Buddhi, Siddhi, Riddhi, you know, intelligence, and so on. And we have Riddhi and Siddhi here, is it? Yeah? Or it can be a signal. Okay? Next we move on to different types of masks. Now you have the fixed focus mask. Normally, the fixed focus mask is what we normally use when you go for these masquerades. Yeah? So those are the fixed focus masks. Then you have half mask. So right now we've used two of the types of masks. We've used the monkey mask, which is a half mask, and we've used a full mask. But what we didn't use is the masquerade mask, which is the fixed focus mask. Now normally when you go for these parties, you have these fixed focus masks because you don't really want to say too much. But when you want to say a lot, that's when we use the full mask. Now here is what? Is the sound connected? Connected? Yeah. No, increase it. I need the sound.
And I'm going to show you today how to make a Greek mask out of cardboard, rope, really simple things you can find at home. This is how it's done. First, you can find all sorts of ancient Greek masks on Google. And here's the one I like.
This is available for you on YouTube.
I'm Barry Kroger, and I'm going to show you today how to make a Greek mask out of cardboard, rope, really simple things you can find at home. This is how it's done. First, you can find all sorts of ancient Greek masks on Google, and here's the one I like the best. I simplified it by sketching it out, and that's what became my design rendering.
Okay, these are all the materials I use to make these masks. First of all, there's corrugated cardboard. See the corrugation in there? Poster board, hot melt glue, stick them up, and scissors. Also helpful is a snap blade knife. Probably the most important thing on here is coffee. Clothesline rope. You get it at the hardware store. You know, just sort of regular size, but cotton, not some sort of plasticky kind. Cotton. Masking tape, we all know what that is. Then for paint, flat black spray paint. At the craft store you can find different shades of gold. Now this is bright gold. You'll need two colors of gold. I would suggest antique gold and then bright gold. Those two kinds of gold.
So I just kind of quickly tried to show you one of the forms of, since we called it a workshop, I would have loved to actually sit you down and do this kind of a craft workshop. Maybe next time around, if sir permits, we are going to actually make these kind of masks, and then do the play. So if we, it could be a little more than 2 days of this thing, the workshop preceded by the show itself, because that would make things. But then what I thought is that at least you see how one of the Greek masks are made, and of course, very very important is that we must all do theatre to find out who we are and discover who we could become. And I think it's a fine thing that the English department has actually looked at, looking at Greek theatre. I've tried to incorporate a little bit of Indian theatre, though it's such a tiny bit, it's like half a drop in the ocean. But here's what, I spoke to you about how masks are made. That was the 4th part. But after how masks are made, you want to see how masks have been used by actors. So here's another little video. It's a short video, after which I'm going to say thank you. But I really want you to see how masks have been used on stage. So now that you've seen how masks have been created, we're going to see how masks have been used on stage. And then I'm going to call in a boy there and do a little bit of mime makeup on him. It's not going to be difficult for you to remove the makeup, I assure you. I'll remove it for you. But to conclude, and I'm saying this again, since I called this a workshop, I would like you to see how my makeup is done. Unfortunately, I could not get the white pancake. Normally in my makeup, they use the white pancake. Okay, but I did get the white color outliner, so we're going to use that, and we're going to use a light shade of green on him. But before that, here's how. Can you just help me in starting this off? I'm sure you know who this character is. Oedipus. And that's Queen, of course. Look at the eyes. You know, these eyes can be seen from a very distant place also. So those who are sitting in the far ends of the auditorium, or not auditorium, but the amphitheater can also see these eyes, you know. Evidently, this is a king who's very, very upset. You know, that I have eyes, but I have done wrong. Look at the body movement, the twitching. We've all looked at ritual drama, yeah. So every ritual drama would have use of masks because they were devoting it to gods.